In this video, I'd like to talk about our core value, begin where others are. And I'd like to maybe come at this a little bit different. I want to talk about it personally, then we'll talk about it theologically, and then finally, I'll just talk about its implications missiologically. Personally, uh, I was raised by two very godly Christian parents. My mom was, in particular, really, really good at beginning where others are. I don't know if you've ever been around people who could just make anything fun. I'd come home from school, she'd ask me how school was, I'd say what any schoolboy does, fine, and she would just never leave it there. She managed to unpack and ask questions and meet me where I was so that eventually we'd wind up laughing or have a really deep conversation. She just had this ability to meet me where I was and to draw out from me an experience to reflect on what I'd just gone through and to see things through a whole different lens. Dinner times, as you can imagine, were event times. These were times where we just laughed. We talked about anything and everything. And my mom, for my life, was so incredible at just meeting me where I was. Now, my father had a completely opposite approach. He struggled with meeting kids where they were. If you didn't speak his vocabulary, he didn't speak. He tried. But the truth is, there was just a greater distance because we always had to go to him, and he was a little more reluctant to come to us. But I can tell you personally, being on the receiving side of that, that it's so powerful. It makes such a difference when you begin where others are instead of expecting them to come to you. As a grandparent, I know the power of this because it's so important that I begin where my grandchildren are, that I get on the floor and play with them. I see at their level, I talk with them in words that they can appreciate, rather than speak above them or beyond them or remain distant from them until they're old enough to come to me. And really, that's how this value is applied personally. Now, theologically, this completely describes how God came to us. He met us where we were. He meets us where we are. Even if it's behind the eyes, God can get into that space. God can meet us physically. He can meet us wherever we're at economically or socially or situationally. That's the heart of God. The heart of God says, you're not holy enough to meet me where I am. So I'm going to meet you where you are, and I'm going to love you enough not to leave you there. So come follow me. Jesus first goes to the lake to see the fishermen, then he calls them to follow him. And so we begin where others are. Now, missiologically, this means that in missions, we try not to begin with some sort of a product we're selling. We don't come in prescribing a silver bullet approach. If you'll just take my course, if you'll just do this teaching, if you'll just apply this thing, then magically you'll be successful. Instead, we realize that every context is unique. And so instead of coming in prescriptively, we begin with each context. What does that context require? What do campuses require? That may be different than what communities require. That may be different than what castaway groups require. And so we begin there and we search for ways to connect. We find the things that connect uniquely. Does that negate great tools? Of course not. Great tools are great tools. Great books are great books and can be timeless books. But it is to say that we don't place all of our hope there and we don't begin there. We begin where others are. And people are in different places all around the world, and they need someone to love them enough to begin where they are so that they won't be stuck there. And thankfully, by the gospel of Jesus Christ, they're not stuck. There's a life beyond it. And so this is a powerful core value at Missions Door. It describes, in some ways, our method. It describes our attitude. It certainly describes our approach. And it works in tandem with all of our core values. It shapes who we are. So whenever we're asking, man, what do I want to do when I go into an area? We start here. We go, okay, well, what's my posture going to be? Where are they? What's going to meet them best? It's a selfless value. I'm so thankful that I get to serve alongside men and women who share this incredible value. As we meet each other where we are, we journey together to the places where he is going.